Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Discuss Detroit. I'm Jeanette Pierce with the Detroit Experience Factory and City Institute. I'll be your host today. And our amazing guest is Alyson Jones from the Detroit Sound Conservancy and Source Booksellers. Hi, Alyson.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Thanks so much for joining today.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to talk with you because there are just so many different projects that you're involved in, and they're all so interesting and so important to the city of Detroit. And so why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and give us your 2-minute life story?
My 2-minute life story. Let's see. Well, it starts in Detroit. I'm a native Detroiter. I'm a product of Detroit Public Schools. I went to Spelman College for undergraduate. I studied philosophy there. I returned to Detroit and I learned to be a teacher. And so I taught for quite a while in the elementary classroom. And at the same time, my family was running a bookstore since my high school years, I guess. Um, and I have also just taken that on more and more throughout the years. And I blended my philosophy and teaching to create a program called Searching for Telos, which teaches reasoning skills and logic to children.
Wow, that's amazing. And so how did you get involved with the Detroit Sound Conservancy?
Well, for a long time, as you can see my photos behind me, I'm a jazz head. And so I love jazz and hard bebop and hard bop, and definitely from my high school years to my college years, just kind of immersed myself in the history of jazz and tried my hand at jazz drumming. And so it when I learned about the Detroit Sound Conservancy, I said, well, this is interesting. Maybe I can contribute some of what I know about the jazz history of Detroit and also support all the other music that I love, which would be blues and rock and really whatever Detroit produces, I try to listen to. So um, definitely, I was taken in by Lavelle and Carlton, and I'm just staying for the Bluebird.
Well, so really quick, for folks that might be new to some of this conversation, could you talk a little bit about bebop, hard bop? These might be newer terms for folks that
Okay,
aren't
so
as into that era of music.
when you think of the music like Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie, um, that would be that music, that sound is more like bebop. It has a swing to it. Um, and usually there's like a bass and a drum, um, and some melody and harmony of horns on top. And so that um, has a lot to do with bebop. And it was really popular in the 40s and the 50s. And then the late 50s on, I think, to the late 60s, maybe 70s was hard bop. So what was swinging got a little more fast. And Elvin Jones would be like an example of that on the drums, where
Yeah.
it's like Speedy Gonzalez or Miles Davis, really went into hard bop as well, where he also branched off into his own cool jazz, which was a whole nother thing. And that happens when there are disruptors in music, like Lee Morgan coming in and kind of being excellent or whatever. And then you see Dizzy Gillespie say, oh, I'll do this Cuban thing and I'll do this cool thing. And so they all have a thing to do and they don't have to be competing, in
Like
hard
little
bop.
niches. Yeah, yeah. That's awesome. Well, and that was a really big part of the Bluebird. So tell people about the Bluebird. And I think it's amazing how we haven't heard about it as much as maybe we should in the mainstream of Detroit conversation, I should say.
That's true. It was really nestled into a Detroit community over on Tireman.
Let's go.
Five.
We can go see where it's at.
Yes.
So this is the historic Bluebird Inn, and we'll zoom out a little here so people can see where we're talking about. Tireman here, just between the I-94, 996, and you can see um, right here, and it's still there thanks to Detroit Sound Conservancy. So tell us about it.
So the Bluebird was very active in the late 40s, hosting so many people, Charlie Parker, Miles Davis. It was just a place for music in the bebop era, and very important to names like Pepper Adams and these different, not only Detroiters like Yusuf Lateef or people like that were actually from Detroit, or Harold McKinney, that could just go to the Bluebird and play,
Yeah.
at the Bluebird. It would really attract international people and musicians to come to the Bluebird.
See Miles Davis, John Coltrane, Sarah Vaughan, Charlie Parker,
Yeah.
some of them. This is I'm just showing this this article because it has some great photos in it.
Yeah, and it was a little place. It was a little
Yeah.
place, but it really did become the place to be, to play music at that time and to be known. People would go there even to get a little something to eat and to listen to music.
And this is and Detroit Sound Conservancy, which is a nonprofit, and you are on the board of Detroit Sound Conservancy, right? You guys bought the building. So this is a picture. Tell us a little bit about this picture.
So this picture was a celebration, really, of securing the building, not preserving it, because our mission is really to preserve the musical heritage of Detroit. But we also have this great need to put our artifacts somewhere. So it's like, come on, everybody, we're going to have a home at some point. So right now we have a jukebox. We have the Bluebird stage, which was we would take it different places, and people like Aloe Black would perform on it. And that would sort of help us raise money for the organization and ultimately support, yep, there it is, support the kind of raising awareness of the Bluebird, having this part of the Bluebird saying that someone could play on it just the way Charlie Parker played on it. And soon it will be in its home again. When we're able to restore the building, we put the Bluebird back and also our other artifacts.
Okay. So what a cool concept too. I mean, how innovative to have a mobile historic stage, right? And when you couldn't bring people to the Bluebird, that you could take the Bluebird to people. That is so awesome. And this photo here on your website at DetroitSound.org is obviously in the Detroit Institute of Arts, or no, it's the Public Library.
Public Library.
Yeah, wow. I just was glancing. I was like, and I always tell people on tours that Detroit Public Library is really a museum in and of itself, and a lot of people think, oh, I don't need a book, I don't need to go there. And I'm like, no, you have to go there for so many different things. How amazing. What a great
Speaking of the Detroit Library, the Hackley collection, the Azalea Hackley collection, has been a source there at the Detroit Library.
Okay.
For a long time, there are little, if you go to it, there's music that you could, like they have music, but also the librarians clipped every outing, or if someone was at the Bluebird at 7:00 on this day, they have a clipping from the newspaper. If someone passed away, like Sarah Vaughan or something, they'd find a way to get their funeral program or something and then catalog it. So Detroit has a great history of trying to preserve music in Detroit, and then the music that came through Detroit.
Yeah. And so so the Bluebird right now, you guys, you bought it in 2018 and kind of secured it, and so put the stage back in there. So is the stage going to stay there now?
Oh no. So in 2020, we got the historic district.
Yes, the designation.
through the city. And so that was sort of like to buy time because
You
we
can read the whole
still,
report here. I found too. I love you find a lot of information
Mhm.
in the reports, you know, of all the different significance. And so that is, and here's um a program from the Bluebird.
Yeah.
Some other ones. Anyway, sorry. I
Okay,
thought
it's okay.
when, you know, if
Um,
anyone's looking, you know, if you find the historical designation, that's where people, it's kind of like the summary, right, of
yeah.
all the different, you know, what makes, you know, when someone's applying for historic designation, they say this is what makes this place amazing, why it should be historic.
Mhm.
And so it's a really awesome read that we'll also maybe link to.
Thank you. So the building is not in its best shape, and we're going to have to put on a roof in order to put our artifacts inside. So we
Yeah.
still have everything in storage or in a location that is willing to hold it, that's safe.
Mhm.
But we definitely are working on a campaign called Raise the Roof. Let's raise the roof. And that could you could find that on Detroit Sound Conservancy.
Yeah.
Um, that effort to do that.
Nope, this one. Here we go. So yeah, right. So first of all, you have the project here,
Hmm.
keeping at the Bluebird Inn, and there's this great video people can watch too, and then it has all the updates so people can stay up to date. And of course, there's also the support, the donate, the subscribe,
Hmm.
patron, all of the ways on here to do that. So it was just October that the city council voted to officially make it a historic district. And then this is where that report is here that you can see the final report.
Hmm.
So in December, the notification of enactment, yay. So we're
Yay.
talking just a little bit ago. So
That was our holiday present.
yes, that's a great present. Awesome. Um, so um, so obviously fundraising is the biggest part, and friend raising, and you know,
Hmm.
this is important, so important to Detroit and Detroit's history, especially with so many of the other venues in Detroit's music history being, you know, were destroyed with the destruction of Black Bottom and Paradise Valley. And I mean, it's interesting that it was in, you know, on the west side instead of the east side, and it's
Hmm.
actually what saved it, you know, likely. But the world loves and appreciates Detroit music as well, right? I mean, obviously everyone knows Motown, but there's so much more. And
Hmm.
so often people, I feel like Detroiters sometimes don't even know our own history, or how, or we take it for granted because we've always just had great music around, right?
Yeah.
And then I will talk to someone from England or Germany or, you know, China, and they want to know, you know, oh, tell me about the Bluebird, and the average Detroiter might not know about the Bluebird. So um, have you had interest from people not from Detroit in supporting Detroit Sound Conservancy?
I don't want to give a wrong story, but I know that Carlton had like an international partnership.
Yeah, yeah.
And it did have to do with, preserving venues.
Absolutely. Well, I think it'll be a great way to kind of get the word out. You know, again, locally so important, and then but there is a world audience for Detroit's music, obviously,
Yeah.
and that's
And
why we're doing the Detroit Music virtual tour series as well, is to just even let people know, both locally and non-local, about some of the great history that we have here in Detroit.
yeah. And if I could just say too about jazz,
Yeah.
that in Detroit Public Schools, there was a um an effort to have a music program, a band program for the sports teams, and also a jazz component. And up until the mid 90s, a lot of New York musicians were from Detroit.
Mhm.
James Carter and others before him
Yeah.
um, were still fueling the sound of jazz.
Well,
You
I
know,
mean,
yeah.
that's our blessing and a curse, is that we have such amazing talent, but then a lot of it does leave to go other places. I think we're starting to see that that change, or that it's easier to come back or to stay connected, certainly with, you know, the internet and social media. Like we can know, oh yeah, that's a Detroit artist. But it's, I don't know. It's, again, it's great that people are from here, but I wish they would, more of them would stay, right?
Yeah.
But you know, again, it's good to go and get success, and then hopefully we bring them back. You know, I'm not a musician or musically inclined. I certainly love music, right? Though, and my poor mom, she it was a professional singer. I mean, you know, she just here and there, and you know, my dad, my Jaja, so Polish, actually owned a bar on the west side for a few years. And when she was like 17, 18, she'd be singing there in the early
Mhm.
60s. And so she loved music, and she had music of all genres on just in our life. So I was exposed to jazz and blues and, you know, all kinds of music. And then none of her kids could sing a note or play an instrument. Like we're just, you know, practically tone deaf, unfortunately. But I really, where I kind of got introduced to, especially kind of blues and jazz, was at the Music Menu, which was in Greektown for, you know, it's not a historic place. I mean, it is now, but, you know, it was the early 90s to 2000s, but 2003, 4 actually. But I was, you know, Thornetta Davis, you know, would play every Wednesday, and I would go there, and Johnny Bassett and Alberta Adams, these, you know, longtime treasures of Detroit that I could just go on a Tuesday, you know, and see them perform. And RJ
Mm.
Spangler and RJ's Rhythm Rockers, and RJ did a lot with, you know, kind of bringing Johnny Bassett and Alberta Adams back to the stage around the city and everything too. So that was my kind of education on, learned so much about music, and just am amazed always at what musicians, especially in you know, jazz and blues, are able to do, because I certainly can't. So it's awesome too that you mentioned that you were learned how to drum as well, which, does that help with the appreciation a little bit?
A little bit. A little bit, but we do have like Third Man Records in town, and if
Yes.
you do have a if you can play records and vinyl, they have Tamala Records, you
Yes.
know, they have little tastes of Detroit music and labels. Um,
So yeah, for those that aren't familiar, Tamla Records was the original name of Motown Records before it became Motown. And Barry Gordy wanted to actually apparently name it Tammy Records, but there was already, you know, after that song from a movie of that era,
yeah.
they settled on Tamla, and then became Motown, obviously, just a couple of years after that. But yeah, Jack White, who is from Detroit, and obviously Third Man Records on Canfield there, you know, he's done a lot to, even before coming back to Detroit, you know, to really preserve and reproduce a lot of these older records, and really put a lot of energy, is a main part of the energy behind the reinterest in albums and records like that. It is really awesome space. And of course, they also are produce records. It's the first new record pressing plant in North America in decades there too.
It's also very close to our bookstore, so they had uh
Next
a
part.
record press that with different colors or something,
Yeah, yeah.
and the line was around the corner very early in the morning, and of course it was a sellout, but I was like, wow.
Going on. Yeah. I got to go to the opening of Third Man Records, which was on Thanksgiving a few years ago now. And but it was also right before the day where they released, you know, they were going to release some rare new print, you know, of an album. And there were people camped outside, like there were tents, like on Thanksgiving night. I was like, is there an REI store opening? Like I thought it was like a display or something. And yeah, I mean, it's obviously a really big market. And so speaking of the of Source Booksellers, you know, it's such an amazing store. And tell us a little bit about, because it's, your mom has been selling books for 40 years plus now.
31, I guess.
31. Okay, I pushed it a little bit too far.
Yeah, so she started just going to events and selling books. Um, and people would ask her, can I get this book, or, calendar or whatever, and she would get it for them. And then early 2000s, she moved on Cass
Mhm.
on where Cobb's Corner was.
Yeah, yeah. Well, where they were, where they are, and where they are again, right? Where Talani Rose.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yep. So Cobb's is back. And so that's the corner of Cass and Willis. And so we were there for 10 and a half years. Within a collective of women-owned businesses, and we took the corner filled with books for that. And then when the opportunity came, so a building was being built, um, we went over to the Canfield side.
Yeah.
So it's
So
Cass and Canfield.
yeah, we'll show it to folks real quick right here.
Yeah, so
So
it's
Willis
just
and
walking
Cass,
up the street,
right
really.
by Flow Boutique, which is an amazing
Yeah.
longtime business as well. So this is
Yeah.
actually really cool. We're gonna go put the little Google guy here. This is how we do some of our, of course, it's not working very well, some of our virtual tours. So you can see Cobb's Corner is here. Again, a lot of people don't realize that it was there and then left, but check this out. Let's go back to what you're talking about. When it was the Spiral Collective, and look, Source Booksellers.
Yes.
We can go back in time on Google Street View, which is kind of cool. Also, if we look for those that have not been around Detroit very long, you might not remember what was or what wasn't on this side of the street, where
Yeah.
the now we have in about 2015, 2014, they built this new building and with residential and retail. And I remember thinking how it was really cool that they, it's called the Auburn, that they work to get local businesses in these retail spaces, so that it wasn't just like, let's get a AT&T or, but you had Hugh, and then of course Source Booksellers, which you guys will move up to today, and you can see.
Yeah.
You're right here.
Yep. We're just missing our for the time being, our sit on it Detroit benches.
Yeah. Well, and Kyle Bartel, who is one of the Sit on It Detroit guys, was a longtime tour guide for us at Detroit Experience Factory too.
Yeah,
So
he's keeping them safe for us.
that's good. That's good. Yeah, so that's Source Booksellers. So then you moved over there into the Auburn, and so where was the timeline when you came back? You were still over in sharing the space when you started to get involved in the do more with the store?
I think after 2013, probably.
Yeah, so right around the move
Yeah,
time and
yeah.
everything.
And
And
it
so,
turned into, of course, the pandemic was like, okay, this is just what I'm doing.
right. No, I
Because
mean,
it's a team of two. So, and we're a nonfiction niche
yeah.
bookstore. So we have a lot of history. Even the book Before Motown,
Mhm.
which talks a little bit about the Bluebird, which talks a little bit about the blues and jazz scene before Motown.
Yeah. I mean, Source Booksellers is so amazing. I mean, and so when you hear, if you guys didn't hear on there, it's a nonfiction only bookstore. So you're not going to go get Harry Potter or the newest, Tom Clancy or something like that. It is, but that is actually makes nonfiction more exciting for some, like you pick the most amazing books, the book, so I highly recommend people can call or go in with a mask, but you can talk. Alyson and Janet, I've had them be able to recommend so many great things. They have children's books. Maybe the only kind of part, maybe you call that, we'll call those fiction. No,
Okay.
the little, I mean, I'm just, but yeah, they have great children's books, board books, you know, all the way up. They have a whole, I love your kind of Detroit local section, right? That, you know, that has Detroit, Michigan writers and stories. I probably have gotten most of my books from you guys,
Mhm.
um, and you also have events go on too. So before COVID, in person events, which I think is really great. That it's not, you know, like, oh, here we're just a bookstore. It's really a community space and community gathering place. Talk a little bit about some of those events that maybe that you had before and how you've switched now to having to do some things online.
Okay, well, we at times we would host local authors to talk about their books, and we would also have national authors come in and talk, especially if they were talking about Detroit. Um, so we had Taya Miles
Yeah.
launch her Dawn of Detroit book, and you can see that on like the C-SPAN because they were there sort of
Wow.
filming it. Um, and we also have conversations, so it doesn't require an author. It's just something that we want to talk about. And we did have exercise in the morning,
Yeah.
like yoga in the chair and things like that. So that will return when normal returns. But right now we are doing Zoom virtual events. And on our Eventbrite, you can find all of our events. We have a really cool story time coming up called In My Mosque on March 27th. And so um, we're just looking for interesting, you know, things to present to our community, our online community, and our local community.
Yeah. And so on this website, which I'll pull up here too for Source Booksellers, you have so the store is currently back open for limited masked, obviously, shopping. But I love that you have all these other resources here on your site as well, from book reviews, and this is like the happenings in the gallery you were talking about. And so people can also uh, order, so they can order online from through Source, right? If they can't come in
Mhm.
person, right?
So the online is sourcebooksellers.online.com.
Okay. And is
Mhm.
that can we
If
is
you
that
click store,
yeah, so then you can see that there
you can
and
click here
got it.
where it says here.
Yep.
Okay. And then we'll hope it comes up. There we go.
Well, and also, even if people aren't sure, you know, if you're not sure what book, some people know what book they want, but some people don't, right? And I think that's what Amazon doesn't, you know, they can't do that. They can say this is an amazing, I mean, yeah, you can read some reviews that you may or may not believe that people are bought the book and read it.
Mhm.
But just amazing. I mean, it's like having, and that was kind of how your mom started, right? Was basically that friend that knew all the great books, right? And
Yeah.
then people were like, oh, can you get a book for me? Can you get a book for me? I don't know if you know, if there's uh is there a is it just being a book expert? Like I know with people who know cheese, they're called cheesemongers, right? Like I
Yes.
bookmongers, but it really is a skill and something that is lost when just you know, getting it from, you know, an Amazon type of place, but to
Mhm.
really, you know, and also have access to these events, both virtual and in person, that talk with the authors, and all of the knowledge that you guys have and bring to the table about certainly the books, but also Detroit in general. And I've definitely had some amazing conversations along the way. Um, if you know, can you tell me a little bit about what did your mom do before? That's something like I always hear about, like the bookstore part, and then I just realize I don't
Yeah.
know that much about before the 31 years, because she's a couple years older than 31.
Yes. So she spent 41 years in Detroit Public Schools.
Okay.
She had several different positions from speech pathologist to teacher to administrator. So
Yeah, so then it's kind of a
full
natural, this is
career.
kind of her retirement gig. But who knew it would be like, such a probably big undertaking, though. I definitely know owning a small business is no easy task. And then you add
No.
pandemic to it. So that's awesome. Well, so many different things. We could talk forever, but we will wrap up. And I'll ask one final question. What's your call to action for people? What do you want them to go out there and do? Or anything. This is your opportunity.
Okay, so I'm gonna do a quick two. My mother would say, read 3 pages a day. So that's a one.
Oh,
And the
three,
second one
that's
is,
I really like that one because sometimes it's daunting. You're like, you got that stack of books on your shelf and you're like, but 3 pages a day. I'm gonna actually do that.
and so my other call to action is to check out the Detroit Sound Conservancy at detroitsound.org. And if you go to give/roof, you can contribute directly to the roof. And it's very important that we secure the building by getting this roof on here, and that we take our stuff out of storage and put it in the Bluebird so we can eventually make it museum-like for our community to come in and view it.
Awesome. Yes. So is it good? Do you want them specifically? So if they go to, it says donate to Detroit Sound,
Mhm.
do we want specifically to go to the roof one, or is any, or both? How about both?
Both.
Does it
Both.
divide it that way?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So you can donate generally, or we can go to the roof portion, raise the roof as you were talking about.
Yeah.
So there you go. So this is specifically
Right.
for the roof. Let's get
For the
that.
roof.
And I love that it's gonna obviously save this huge part of history, but also help the Detroit Sound Conservancy save even more history and give that location to house those items. And then hopefully, cross our fingers one day, it'll be like a museum, right?
Yes.
That's a whole nother conversation though, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'll also follow up by saying, make sure you like Detroit Sound Conservancy and source booksellers on Facebook and all the social media. Follow them. Sign up for newsletters. This is the time more than ever to support small businesses, to support small orgs, if you have that capability. And if not, if you don't have the money right now, just spread the word. That really, really helps. So share their pages, share the donate link to around. Be really, really helpful and help be a part of saving Detroit music. So thank you so much, Alyson, for joining
Thank
us.
you.
I will look forward to seeing you next time I come in the store to buy some stuff. It's one of my favorite places for presents for people.
Sounds good.
And thank you everybody for joining us. Once again, I'm Jeanette Pierce with Detroit Experience Factory and City Institute. You can find us on social media, DetroitExperienceFactory.org website, and join us for one of our virtual tours. And hopefully we'll be back to in-person tours once this weather gets a little better and once we can beat COVID once and for all. Talk soon. Have a great day.